I'm Trina, and today I'm going to be giving a book review over In a Handful of Dust by Mindy McGinnis. First, I'm going to give you a brief summary of this book, and then I'm going to tell you why you should read it. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to have a discussion section. So let's get started. In a Handful of Dust is the sequel to Not a Drop to Drink. Both of these books are set in a world where there's no electricity and water has kind of run out. So water is so rare that people actually fight over drinkable water. The first book followed a character named Lynn who lived in a house that had a pond in the backyard, and people were trying to take her pond because it was a source of fresh water. In a Handful of Dust is set 10 years after the events of the first book, and it's technically a companion novel instead of a sequel, but the main character in this one was the character in the first book, and you do get to see how all of the characters from the first book end up. So at the start of this book, what's happened is Lucy, our main character, is living in a safe town in Ohio. She's got a source of water, there's a bunch of people living there, and all of a sudden there's this outbreak of an illness, and Lucy might be a carrier, so for her own safety and the safety of the whole town, she has to leave. There are rumors of a city out in California that is a safe place to live and that has these power plants called desalination plants which can take the salt out of seawater. And so since they live on the coast, they have an endless supply of fresh drinking water. So Lucy's going to set out there because she can't live in her hometown anymore. So this book is all about her journey. Now, why should you read this book? If you like The Walking Dead, you will love these books because it is a very similar post-apocalyptic survival story. But of course, there aren't any zombies this time. But all the themes of survival are very much the same. Like, can you trust the other survivors? Can you find a safe place to live? Can you defend what's yours? Those same themes are also in the book The Fifth Wave by Ricky Yancey, which was very popular in the past couple of years. So if you like that book, check these out as well. And lastly, if you liked the Little House on the Prairie series and want something a little bit more grown up, these are the books for you because it's definitely that same pioneer lifestyle, only this is a more mature and dark theme. I read both of these books this year. I read Not a Drop to Drink at the very beginning of 2014, and the whole year, anytime someone has asked me for a book recommendation or what have some of my favorite reads of the year been so far, I have always gone back to Not a Drop to Drink. And now that I've read In a Handful of Dust, I really think that this duology kind of has a place in my all-time favorites. The setting of these was so gritty and realistic. Not only does this seem like one of the most believable post-apocalyptic worlds, it's not just that this could happen in the future, but this type of lifestyle of living off of the land and trying to find clean water to drink and protect what's yours, we all came from that. Our ancestors already did that. So this is both a look into the future and into the past. Okay, so I have a question for you. If you found yourself in this type of post-apocalyptic world, what do you think your survival strategy would be? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move into the discussion. So if you have not read these books, again, go read them and then come back once you have. Okay, so everyone here has read the book, right? You know, I'm not really sure how I felt in the beginning that Lucy and Lynn have to leave their hometown because we spent the entire first book with Lynn. We've seen her struggle to protect her house and her pond, and now all of a sudden they're having to leave. I know this was set 10 years later, but I still hated to see her uproot her whole life. Plus, this thought that Lucy might be a carrier, this was just a guess, so I hated that they both had to leave home just on an assumption. So Lynn and Lucy came across several different people on their journey. Josh was the first one. Did you guys think she was shady? Because I hated the way that she kept using Lucy as a human shield. Like, lady, get out of here. We don't even know you. We don't owe you anything. Fletcher was the only one I really liked. I just really liked that there was a good character. Someone could still be a gentleman in this type of a world. And I know that he was looking for his long-lost wife, but come on guys, it's been like, what, 10 or 20 years since you last saw her? And I was kind of hoping for him and Lynn to get together. I don't know, was anybody else thinking that? I know Lynn hasn't been with anyone for like 10 years since Eli died in the first book, and I just really kind of want her to have a happy ending and a family of her own. Like, okay, who else thought that Lynn died in the desert? I fell for that for sure. There's a line where they've been walking for a really long time and they kind of pass out from heat exhaustion, and it says like, Lucy woke with parched skin and the sun beating down on her skin. Lynn did not wake at all. And then there's just a line break and you keep reading, and then it's like, oh, well, Lucy shook her awake. I really thought that Lynn never woke up. I thought that she had died. That was such a cruel, cruel prank. So then they get kind of saved by the people who live in Las Vegas, and this town is so creepy. Did anyone want Lynn and Lucy to stay in Las Vegas, or were you always just creeped out by this town? I never liked Ben from the moment we met him, because one of the things he says to Lucy right off the bat is, well, I have to be nice because my dad says I'm not going to win anyone over on my looks. So he's not being nice because he's just a kind person. He's just being nice to manipulate people. And then he's supposed to be so smart, and he's used his boy genius to make this mirror machine that kills people and sucks all the water out of their bodies so that they can have something to drink. But they say that it was 3 grown men they took, and they got a small bucket of water. So it wasn't even that much water. Is this even worth killing people then? And Lander's not really much better than Ben. There were only 2 women in this town before we got there because they had all died out. So it's a town full of men, and yet Lander is the only one that is repopulating with these women, and he wants to repopulate with Lynn as well. But like, that just does not seem like a smart move at all, because what kind of a gene pool is that? So moving on, Lynn and Lucy eventually break away and make it to their destination, Sand City. They really can take the salt out of seawater, so this is like a safe place to live. And then Lynn decides to go back home. First of all, I didn't really like that Lynn was leaving. I know that this wasn't her home and it just wasn't her place in the world, and she didn't want to pull Lucy away from it because Lucy really did fit in here. But they had only been there for a couple of weeks at the end of the book, so who is to say that Sand City doesn't turn out just like Las Vegas? Once they had found out from the doctor in Vegas that even if Lucy had been a carrier for polio, that it would have died out of her system by now. At that point, I really just wanted the 2 of them to go back home to Ohio, because that was where Stubbs and Vera were. That was where Lynn's home and her pond were. I really wanted them to go back together, or maybe in some weird way that Stubbs and Vera had followed them. But that's not what happened, and now Lynn is heading home. And I know that the author has said she doesn't have any plans for another book in this series, but how awesome would it be to get a 3rd book that's all about Lynn's journey home? I think that would be incredible, especially if she meets up with Fletcher. But think about it, there is so much more to be covered, because when Lynn gets home, what do you think has happened to all those people in Ohio? Like, do you think that they're all better now and everyone is happy and back to normal? Or maybe someone else was a carrier and they all died out anyway? Or maybe another group came through and threatened them for the pond and everyone had to leave, and then Lynn is just gonna be all alone again, sitting on a roof shooting coyotes. So I just want to know, did she make it home okay? What happened to those people that she left behind? Will she and Lucy ever see each other again? Will she ever see Fletcher again? And these questions aren't something that took away from my enjoyment of the book at all. I loved that it was wide open like this. This world definitely has a ton of possibilities. Let me know your thoughts on this book down below. If anyone else loves this series as much as I do, I would love to hear about it, because I don't know very many people who have read this. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.